All right, there we go. We are up and running. Welcome back to the 2025 Borealis Psychedelic Science Summit in Stockholm. My name is Yoshi, and I am joined now by Dr. Paul Liknaitzky.
Hey Yoshi, how are you?
Very good, thank you. How are you doing?
I'm good. I'm well. It's fun to be here. I'm tired. My voice is tired. I've just been talking continuously to people, but it's great.
Yeah, this is the last podcast session for today. So we're wrapping up day one. I bet it's been a hectic day on your end as well.
It's been fun. It's been good.
Yeah, that's great. Did you fly in today from?
No, a couple of days ago.
From England, right?
No, from Melbourne, Australia.
Oh, right. You had the longest trip.
I'm the one who won the prize for the longest journey. Yep. Hopefully they'll give me a prize.
Yeah. Don't hold your breath. I flew from. I studied in Adelaide for one semester a long time ago when I was in college.
Right.
And I flew back. When I flew back, there were a bunch of issues with connecting flights. Yeah. So it took me 56 hours to get back. Wow. That was rough.
Yeah, that's a marathon. Well done. Done. You survived it.
I did. I can't sleep on like planes and airports though, so I did the whole 56 hours awake.
Well, that's one way to get into an altered state.
It is, yeah. Absolutely. I'm hoping your journey was smoother than that.
Yeah, it was fine. Child's play, just 26 hours.
Well,
no problem.
There you go. Easy peasy.
Yeah.
Tell me a little bit about your background and how you got to working in the psychedelic field.
Yeah, so my background in qualification is in neuroscience and experimental psychology. I attempted to apprentice myself to folk overseas during my PhD and was very heartened by just a lot of positivity and sharing that happened. This is well before the psychedelic boom, I suppose, right. 2012, 2013. Really I was interested in altered states of consciousness and the variety of methods that one can get into altered states and how they might be useful in treating mental illness. And I could just see that, obviously psychedelics are the most reliable way to get into these kinds of states that I was interested in. And I wasn't sure, whether the field was really kicking up globally or whether it was going to be, a little cottage industry with a few little islands of activity overseas. It really, I did feel pretty silly for the longest time kind of deciding to specialize in a field that didn't exist in Australia.
Right.
But somehow, with the right timing, on the shoulders of the giants overseas and with the generational shifts in attitudes and the accumulation of data and incremental pushes here and there, things started to happen in Australia. So I set up a lab at Monash University in 2020, now 5 years ago, and built a phenomenal team of clinicians and researchers and really multidisciplinary. And we've been running trials ever since and involved in training and various other activities. And it's wonderful to see in Australia the field of psychedelic research and practice, it's growing, and it's growing, I think, quite positively. There's just more and more research. There are more and more people involved in clinical practice now. And the level of the conversation, I think, has really matured a lot in just a few years. So it feels really nice to be there now.
Yeah, it's fantastic.
Yeah.
How was the reception back when you started and compared to today?
Yeah, I mean, things have changed a lot. I mean, I remember doing talks in, hospitals and various things on psychedelics, 10 years ago maybe now. And, generally, a bit of, interest, but mostly, skeptical eyebrows raised, and certainly nobody with like a real career wanting to put their hand up to get involved,
Right.
Absolutely different story now where, there is a whole range, of course, of, perspectives and sentiment about it now. There certainly are many more people getting involved in psychedelic research and in practice. Obviously, we had the downscheduling of MDMA and psilocybin 2 years ago in 2023, and that also shifted people's perspectives and so on. But, there are many folk who still are concerned or skeptical or cynical about it. I also notice, while there are a small subset of researchers and clinicians that have gotten involved and kind of educated themselves and playing a valuable part, there are also, I think, probably a larger set of professional stakeholders whose perspective shifts, I think, through like contagion effect more than education. Mm-hmm. It's like 10 years ago, something to be kind of worried about and not get involved in and be very suspicious about. And then, 5 years ago, maybe to get involved in it or be positive about it. And then now there's this new kind of, post-hype kind of, trend towards being skeptical again, as though that's like it's like a way of virtue signaling once again to be skeptical. And some of those folk haven't really changed in their level of education about the topic. Right. It's just going with the tide. Yeah.
What kind of skeptical though? Because there is a point in, not over exaggerating a hype.
Sure.
But I guess you're not talking about that kind of skeptical. It's
no.
the good old kind or bad old kind of skeptical.
Yeah, I mean, I guess one of the issues that plagues psychedelic research is that these substances are often kind of quite remarkably transformative for people, to the degree that it can even change people's kind of culture and metaphysics and who they associate with and so on. And certainly there are many people who put their hand up to work in psychedelic research or practice who have had their own psychedelic experience and are kind of, if not evangelical, and some of them are, then still kind of really wanting to be a part of a movement and drive this, over the line in some way.
Right.
And so naturally you'll have people who feel concerned about the field and concerned about the quality of the data and the methods and so on.
Right.
The issue is just, if that kind of attitude is just applied in an overgeneral way to the field, where if you're in the psychedelic field, well, then you ought to be treated with suspicion. And so there are some people like that who think, oh, well, everybody involved in psychedelics is kind of a part of a hyped situation. And I mean, I feel like it's interesting. The question of hype is interesting to me because certainly, there is a kind of hype that we're well aware of in the space, but I think it's when we see the results in many of the people we treat, and when we're talking to people and watching what's happening in their lives, one of the ways that I think we can improve our understanding of the hype is that a lot of it is about the pharmacocentric fallacy, this idea that like it's a drug that you can take that will fix you up. And to the degree that you hold that view and think and believe that it reliably changes people's lives, like that's absolutely hyped.
Yeah.
Like when we see phenomenal benefit in people's lives, and we do see that a lot, and when it endures, it always appears like a psychotherapeutic change. Whether or not they have a lot of psychotherapy, there is something that's happening that looks like a virtuous cycle of learning and behavior change and so on. It's the mechanisms of how psychotherapy works. And so, I think this, this kind of drug-focused magical thinking is certainly like at the heart of the hype. But, we've seen patients, I've heard patients say this to me, that it's the opposite of hyped. It's like, wow, this is like, everyone's talking about it, but it feels like the biggest secret, that it's like, that you can have such phenomenal experiences and such, impressive changes in your life.
Right.
So I think there's this kind of overgeneral way of talking about things as though like, actually psychedelics are not that fantastic. It's all hyped. Right. It just kind of helps people a little bit. Actually, that's not true. Some people don't respond well and actually do worse. In our trials, the majority of people respond well. And like many of them, like it blows my mind. It's like, and it blows their mind, and we follow them up many years later, and it's like amazing.
Yeah.
So in those people's lives, when their lives are transformed to that degree and you say, well, actually psychedelics are hype, they're like, hey, like my life is different now, like in a very big way. But the critical thing is it doesn't happen passively, and it's not, this focus on psychedelics is not, it's the wrong focus. It's like, it's a human story. They had this, this amazing kind of experience alongside the support that we provide. And then they went on to do things in their lives that took courage and effort and so on. But they kind of got over a critical, barrier that they couldn't before that. And everything is different on account of that.
Right.
Yeah.
You mentioned before the point of view, or having the view that this is a drug that you take and then you get better, that it's wrong. What would be a more accurate, realistic view of how to talk about these things, these substances?
Yeah, there are many ways we could attempt to use analogies that I think can be helpful. But I think of psychedelics as a tool in in a program of care that can help people. Now, it's not to say that no one can benefit from psychedelics alone. Of course, we see the data shows us that some people do benefit from psychedelics alone, even when they're not intending on benefiting from psychedelics. It can happen by mistake. Right. But in general, for particularly unwell people with entrenched issues who are unstable and have severe psychopathology, I think it's very unlikely to get durable outcomes unless psychedelics are combined with substantial wraparound care and kind of contextual support and extended integration and so on. We published a paper not long ago, a few of us, making the case for thinking about psychedelics as tools, not treatments. And so this is one analogy that we refer to psychedelics in the context of regulation as potentially similar to anesthetics, which are drugs that have been regulated not to achieve some clinical or therapeutic endpoint, but to achieve some preconditioned state in order to then perform a medical procedure. Right. And so there's maybe an analogy there, or at least a partial analogy with psychedelics, that they increase the probability of successful psychotherapy, or they set up a precondition for psychotherapy to be far more efficient and effective. Right. But there are other ways to think about psychedelics, and I think for everybody they can operate in quite different ways. Yeah. For some people, they really are setting up a kind of compass of value and motivation in life. For other people, it's about dramatic shifts in perspective. Right. The stories are very different from person to person.
Yeah, even for the same individual, they can be two completely different things from one experience to the next.
Yeah, sure.
What's something in your current research or current work that you're really excited about?
Wow, a lot. There's a lot of new things going on in my group, and I feel very grateful and excited now because I'm in a kind of design phase. I mean, I'm not only designing things, but often I'm operational, and now I'm, have at least some of my time that I can dedicate to design and foraging for ideas and building teams on a couple of new projects. We have a few new projects in the lab that are extending beyond psychopathology and psychiatric care. My lab has a focus on human distress and its causes, and obviously causes can be very broad and can go beyond your brain and your body. And so I'm particularly interested in ways in which we can utilize psychedelics with adequate programs of care to have the greatest impact at a community level. So I'm thinking of things like prevention, of going upstream on some of the key issues, and this is what I'll be talking about a bit tomorrow. We have two projects in the lab that are attempting to go upstream on psychopathology, and the way I describe it is this: that one of the most common factors across psychopathology and addiction is trauma or a trauma response, and upstream of trauma is generally harmful human behavior. Right. And upstream of harmful human behavior, which is often violence or abuse or neglect, is generally, dysregulation and disconnection and so on. And so we have these two new projects that are attempting to address two issues that are kind of at the basis of the majority of violence in the world. One is a study focused on the prevention of family violence. And in that study, we're using psychedelic-assisted therapy in the treatment of perpetrators of family violence, of intimate partner violence. And of course, I mean, it's a very complex project. It's like a multi-stakeholder process, and the design process is going on for quite a while. And of course, we have to address numerous factors that we've never had to address in clinical trials before, principally because we don't only need to take care of the participant we're treating, we have to take care of the affected family members.
Right.
And they become participants in the trial as well and are associated with the outcome measures, and it's a very complex process. But of course, and we're attempting to prevent the violence that then leads to trauma, that then leads to all forms of other psychopathology. And of course, right, in the family home, that's associated with intergenerational trauma and violence. So that's like a big lever. It's a very complex and difficult project to design, but it feels motivating because it's like one of the most kind of powerful places to attempt to make a difference, because it's one of the most destructive places in society, family violence. And then we have another project which is to do with bringing people from highly polarized groups together into like a program that includes inner work and relational skills and kind of ethical leadership alongside individual psilocybin dosing. And that, of course, intergroup polarization is associated with intergroup hostility and at its extreme, intergroup violence.
Right.
And once again, it's the same basic themes that we're looking at here, themes of dehumanization, disconnection. If the majority, other than family violence, the majority of violence in the world is committed by strangers against each other based on group identification. Yeah. And the only way you get to kill somebody, a stranger, because of their group identity is because you've thoroughly dehumanized them.
Yeah.
And so this feels, again, like another complex process and an interesting program, but it's something that I feel has like a lot of community leverage, if you like. Yeah.
That's so interesting. It's one of those like cliches. If everyone had an acid trip, there would be no wars or whatever. But but you're actually doing the reserch. And I wouldn't stand by that statement again, because that's a pharmacocentric view. I think these drugs on their own, they're just as likely to cause tribalism as they are to cause peace. Of course, it's a stupid cliche, but you're actually doing the research that takes us in that direction, how it can help resolve conflict.
And I mean, part of what I'm attempting to do is not only to develop new models of care to address various issues, it's also about shining a new light on an old problem to see if we can understand it better. Yes, we might develop new methods of addressing issues using psychedelics, but we also might develop methods that don't use psychedelics but are informed by this work.
Right.
Yeah, because one of the ways you understand a problem is when you resolve it, and the way in which you resolve it completely alters how you understand the problem.
Right.
So when you resolve like somebody's depression symptoms with SSRIs, it gives you a very different view of what depression is as compared to if you resolve their depression with psilocybin.
Right.
And so this is my question. Can we understand something like group-based tribalism and hostility in a new way, in a forward-looking way, not the way we typically understand it, which is really, a backward-looking historic view of tribalism and historic hostilities and violence and evolutionary principles. Like, can we shed new light on this old problem so that we can not only kind of raise the profile of the issue of polarization and the need for cohesion, but maybe inform new methods. And of course, it's not only associated with trauma and mental health issues, but we're a highly connected world a species that has enormous potential, and yet we're facing existential threats of all kinds, and of course we're never going to be able to coordinate on big topics like this unless we can have a conversation.
Yeah. That's so interesting. Are you doing all this research in Australia, or is it?
Yeah, it's all that. What I've described there is all within our lab, the clinical psychedelic lab at Monash University. Wow. Yeah.
So a lot of interesting stuff going on down there. That's
absolutely.
Great.
Yeah.
That's great. In the broader psychedelic field, psychedelic research area, what are the highlights? What are some things that you're excited about that are going on today or moving forward?
Yeah, I mean, there's just such a proliferation of, diverse research programs all over the world. It's just wonderful to see the diversity. So much, I think, will lead to new methods of treating people, new ways of understanding how we work, and it's extremely kind of interdisciplinary, which I think is fantastic. You see that here at this conference where there's the clinical work, there's the neurobiological work, there's work on consciousness, there's phenomenological work, anthropology. It's great. I am particularly interested in combining psychedelics with various, other practices. I really do see the role of psychedelics as kind of synergistic with other practices in general.
Right.
And so, we have a new study in our lab as well that's going to be combining contemplative mindfulness practice with psilocybin, and there are a few studies like that around the world that I'm really keen on watching and learning from. And it's just wonderful to see all the different work and the collaboration in the field as well.
Right.
Of course, there's a whole kind of pharma R&D that is that's kind of playing out as a layer in this space, and it's got its energy and it's got its it's got its money, and it keeps the wheels turning.
Right.
But it's less collaborative for commercial reasons, of course. So what I really appreciate is the kind of more investigator-initiated creative work that is not so narrowly construed, not just focused on regulatory strategies. Of course, that's important, and patients are hopefully going to benefit from approval of various treatments, and I think that's fantastic. But I'm particularly interested in creative ways to build things and combine things and look at best practice and mechanisms of action and so on. And in that space, it's highly collaborative, which is really nice.
Right.
Yeah.
A lot of interesting stuff going on. You have a documentary out as well?
Yeah, so it's been out for a little while in Australia, but it was kind of geo-locked to Australia, so we're showing it here tonight, which is nice on the big screen. So it's a documentary called Stepping into the Unknown that was produced by a great production house called Blackfella Films in Australia. And they followed us intensively for 2 years. It was quite an undertaking by all of us, and they followed a number of participants in a trial. So we did this first in world psilocybin in generalized anxiety disorder trial with 73 participants, and 4 of those brave souls are featured in this documentary along with our team and various activities in the lab. And I think it's a well done documentary, and one of the most, I think, honest and intimate accounts of psychedelic therapy.
Right.
And during the course of the documentary, our regulated down-scheduled MDMA and psilocybin, so you get to see our whole team going like, wow, like what's going on,
Yeah.
Because our group is, it's the first lab and the largest, most experienced group of psychedelic researchers and practitioners, and that announcement took everybody by surprise.
Cool.
So that's part of what you see in the documentary. I'm looking forward to it tonight.
Can people stream it somewhere?
Currently, it's still geo-locked to Australia, so unfortunately not. But hopefully they will on-sell it or something like that, so it can be more available. Maybe people can write to the producers of Stepping into the Unknown and ask them, and then they might do something about it.
Put some pressure on them.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Sounds good. Where can people follow your work?
Yeah, so monash.edu/psychedelics. That's where you'll find our lab and more information on our work and my contact details and so on. We're, for anybody listening to this who has the resources to fund mission-focused, community-benefiting psychedelic research, this is really, so much of what I want to do and so much of what we are doing is really only within the remit of philanthropy. It's,
right.
We've got some government grants as well for various things. We've got some industry contracts as well for various things. But there are these, phenomenal opportunities to build, sensible research programs that have the potential for, really substantial community impact,
right.
Like the ones I just described and others that we're doing as well, that really relies on the visionary contributions of philanthropists. And so, I'm really hoping to be able to just keep doing that kind of work, because there are some particular affordances to the Australian regulatory context and also in our particular lab's context where we can actually do research that can't easily be done anywhere else. Mm-hmm. And we can often do it cheaper and faster than other places, but at, kind of world standard levels, which is, right. FDA compliant levels, which is great. So I'm hoping that even though we're tucked around the other side of the world, that we'll be able to really, make a valuable contribution to the field and also potentially seed, similar kinds of projects elsewhere in the world where, we might, learn a few lessons and get some precedent and assist other groups around the world to kick things off as well. So, always very happy to collaborate with other psychedelic groups around the world. We're doing, for example, a psychedelic assisted therapist training program. We gave, we did the first pilot project giving psilocybin to our therapists a few years ago, and we're doing the next version of that study, which is again, another fascinating study that's quite difficult to do in many regulatory jurisdictions where they don't approve that. And so anybody who's got an interest in the kind of, in therapist competencies and how to train for high quality clinicians in this space and wanting to do psychedelic assisted training, I'd be very happy to talk to people there.
All right. Fantastic.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for sitting down to have a chat with me.
Great to chat.
Much
Thanks.
appreciated. And thanks to everyone who's tuning in. My name is Yoshi from the 2025 Borealis Psychedelic Science Summit in Stockholm. Catch you next time.
Cheers.